This is David Mould. I'm reading from my book, Postcards from the Borderlands. This excerpt is entitled, The World's Craziest Border. It could be a screenplay for a Bollywood movie or for a soapy TV series about the early days of the British Raj. The main characters spend their times lounging around in pastel pink palaces and wandering through well-manicured gardens, plotting against the Mughal Emperor or the British East India Company, while trying to figure out which of their relatives has betrayed them or made off with the family jewels. The characters, male and female, are expensively dressed, dripping with gold and silver. They're attended by small armies of servants who open and close massive doors, wave large feather fans, and bow as they enter with trays of food and deliver letters with elaborate wax seals. In this scene, the Maharaja of Cooch Behar, a princely state in Bengal, is receiving his neighbour, the Faujdar of Rangpur, who shows up with his usual retinue of retainers and elephants, both of which need feeding. As traditional rulers go, they are in the minor leagues. The Faujdar owes his allegiance to the Mughal Emperor in Delhi, the Maharaja to the British, who protecting his state from the aggressive Bhutanese kings to the north. Because the Mughals and the British left local rulers to run their own domestic affairs, the two princes have control over their own territories. "How about a game of chess?" the Maharaja asks his guest. "Yes, that will pass the time agreeably," the Faujdar says. "But what will be our wages?" The Maharaja calls on a servant to bring a map of the two states. "Let us use our lands," he proposes. They agree on a sliding scale. If one player takes the other's pawn, he wins a rice paddy in the other's kingdom. A bishop or a castle brings several houses and fields. Checkmate, a whole village. And so, over several years and many chess games, with scribes diligently recording lands won and lost, the map of the region became dotted with enclaves or chitmahals, small pockets of Cooch Behar territory within the boundaries of Rangpur, and vice versa. In total, there were 162 chitmahals, ranging in size from 10 square miles to less than an acre. For centuries, the patchwork divisions made little difference in the lives of the people who lived there. That all changed in 1947 with the partition of British India. Muslim-majority Rangpur became part of East Pakistan and later Bangladesh. The Maharaja of Cooch Behar dithered for a couple of years before opting to join India in 1949. Suddenly the borders were closed, and the residents of the Chitmahals found themselves surrounded by a foreign country. And that's how things stayed until a historic land swap agreement in 2015. India had 111 enclaves within Bangladesh, with a population of about 38,000. Within them were 21 Bangladeshi counter-enclaves, an island of Bangladeshi land surrounded by Indian territory within mainland Bangladesh. On the Indian side were 51 Bangladeshi enclaves, with a population of about 15,000. Within them were 3 Indian counter-enclaves. No wonder The Economist described the zigzagging lines between India and Bangladesh as, quote, the world's craziest border. I became interested in the enclaves, the Chitmahals, in summer 2016, a couple of months before I travelled to the state of Assam for an Indian government-funded program to teach a 2-week seminar on communication for development to junior faculty and doctoral research students. The visit to Tezpur University would be my first to northeast India, the so-called Chicken Neck, precariously attached to the rest of the country by a narrow strip of land between Bangladesh and Nepal, the Siliguri corridor. To prepare myself, I pored over the maps. The border between India and Bangladesh looked like nothing I'd ever seen before, zigzagging for hundreds of miles. And what were those blobs along the border? Even on a detailed map, only the largest of the chitmahals showed up. The borders were confusing, yet fascinating. Unfortunately, there's no historical record of high-stakes chess games or of other princely sporting events on which bets were placed. The story is repeated in several articles about the chitmahals, but without evidence. A more plausible explanation is that the chitmahals are the result of a series of messy peace treaties signed in the early 18th century between Cooch Behar and the Mughal Empire. Cooch Behar ceded some estates and villages where Mughal nobles ruled and collected taxes from the population. As long as the region was subject to the Mughal Empire and later British India, it didn't matter which local potentate ruled over a village or a few fields. It was only in 1947, when British India was partitioned, that the chitmahals left thousands on the wrong side of the border, essentially making them stateless. For a few years after partition, residents of the chitmahals were able to move fairly freely within their new countries, to go to work or school, the market or health clinic. After 1952, as relations between India and Pakistan deteriorated, border controls made travel more difficult. To obtain a passport and visa, a chitmahal resident had to go to Delhi or to Dhaka, but the only way to do so was to make an illegal border crossing. As both countries expanded roads, railroads and electricity supply to rural areas, the improvements stopped at the boundaries of the chitmahals. They lacked schools, health centres, police stations and courts. With no law enforcement or judicial system, residents were easy prey for gangs, and violent crimes went unreported and unpunished. The issue remained unresolved as relations between India and Pakistan worsened. In 1971, after a 9-month liberation war led to the creation of Bangladesh from East Pakistan, India, which had first secretly, then openly supported the resistance movement, seemed more open to a deal. The Land Boundary Agreement, signed in 1974, was supposed to resolve all border disputes, including the chitmahals. Bangladesh's parliament immediately ratified the agreement, but it took India 41 more years to do so. Finally, in 2015, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi flew to Dhaka to meet Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and sign the land swap and other agreements. Under the agreement, the chitmahals became part of the country that surrounded them. In terms of land area, Bangladesh got the better deal, gaining about 27 square miles, while India gained 11 square miles. Residents were given the option of choosing either Indian or Bangladeshi nationality. The Indian press claimed that thousands wanted to leave Bangladesh for a better life, but that the authorities, fearing a mass exodus would look bad, put pressure on them to stay. Whatever the truth of the claim, the fact that less than 1,000 moved to India suggests that many people did not want to abandon the land their families had farmed for generations. A sense of place and community was more important to them than religion or nationality. Postcards from the Borderlands by David Mould, published by Open Books, is available from Amazon and other online booksellers.